How's it going, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and just because you can't buy a device here in the US doesn't mean that we shouldn't do a review for those international phone doggers and for those people that are going to buy it. Unlocked. Here it is, the HTC Sensation XE. Now this device is a lot like the T-Mobile HTC Sensation 4G, but it adds a couple of things. One, a dual-core 1.5 gigahertz processor, which the Sensation had, but this one is running at 1.5, a full 1.5 gigahertz and not downclocked. You have Beats audio on this bad boy, and then you have that same 4.3-inch display, 8 megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording, and more. Android 2.3 on this sucker with HTC Sense version 3.0. Is it worth getting this device overseas or perhaps purchasing it if it's local to your market? We'll find out that and more in the full review, but first, gotta give some love to my boys at Best Buy for hooking us up with high-end smartphones just like this for use on One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, all that stuff. So whether you get a device like the Sensation 4G on T-Mobile, the Sprint Evo 3D, or something like that, they'll help you walk out working at Best Buy Mobile. Let's take a look at this in the review. HTC Sensation XE. Into market on this device, you know, if you haven't worked with the Android market over the past, let's say, year or so, there have been huge changes on this front. It really is something that can compete with Apple's App Store now and gives a nice, appearance, not only appearance, I should say, but gives you the ability to see apps, games, books, and movies. Well, I guess they've just changed it to films since this is a European device. All from one device. So you can see, I can go over here to Films, for example, click on that, and I can get easy access to my movies, and you can see the shopping cart or a little shopping bag up here changes colors depending on what app I'm in. So when I go to Books, and I go to Games, and then when I go to Apps, it changes. But you can see, we'll load it up here so you can get a look at, or get a taste of what it looks like. And you've got your squares here, you've got some rectangles here as well, and they've kind of got this tile look to it, very similar to Windows Phone 7. And you can see, you know, how it kind of attracts your eye because one's larger, here's two small ones, and then here's another large one. You've got your HTC, your editor's choice stuff, and then a really big one. But you can scroll over here and see top paid, top free, top grossing, and more. So here are my top free applications, and we can bring over, let's say, Google Books, for example. We'll open this up, and you can take a look at how everything's laid out. You've got your Google Books here, you can install, you've got some screenshots, which looks like I only have 2 screenshots, but description, star rating, you got what's new, videos, so I can preview the application, some reviews, and then more by Google, developer, users, also view market content, and more. So both portrait or in landscape mode, it looks pretty nice. They've done a good job with the redesign. I like the black color scheme. It actually goes pretty well with the color of this device as well. So we can go into Facebook for Android just so you can see what it looks like as well. Share and search up here in the top, or at the top rather, and I see my screenshots. I can, when an application's installed, I can click this and hit allow automatic updating. So whenever there is an update available for the application, it'll push it to the application itself as opposed to you having to go in and update it on your own. So that's something that Android does a great job with over iOS. If you're comparing the two operating systems, you know, iOS kind of sends you that ugly, you know, little three with a circle in the red with updates, for example. This will automatically do it for you with most applications. So pretty nice touch there. Now I want to jump in to quadrant standard and speed test. Kind of do these in the beginning of part 2 of this video. So we'll see speed test. Let's do quadrant standard first and take a look at what kind of scores we get on this. I'll talk a little bit about call quality. You know, it's on T-Mobile right now. This device will work on T-Mobile's 3G bands in the United States. So if you're importing it in, 3G on T-Mobile, Edge only on AT&T. So something to keep in mind. It will not work on AT&T's 3G, but it does work on T-Mobile's 3G. Now that said, call quality has been pretty decent on both. I actually did throw an AT&T SIM card in just to test, and the earpiece is nice and loud regardless. HTC has done a pretty decent job. It's nice and loud and easy to hear out of. Now with T-Mobile's coverage, I haven't had any major issues in the Charlotte metro area. The wireless radio seems to be nice and decent on this device. And I can't say I had any dropped calls. I did have one area when I took it to T-Mobile dead spot in southeast Charlotte. I did have one little issue where it cut in and out, although the call didn't disconnect. So something to keep in mind. Call didn't disconnect, but it was a little bit choppy, but it was a dead spot. So 2,129 on quadrant standard. So it's important to note, you know, take this with a grain of salt because this isn't really indicative of day-to-day performance, but 2,129. What I will say is if you're coming from an Evo 3D, you're coming from the Sensation 4G, and you absolutely love this design, love this build quality, you're like, I've always wanted a Sensation 4G with Beats audio, then I would say take a look at maybe importing this from one of the carriers. If you're looking for a similar device, but you're like, hey, I don't really need the Beats, take a look at the Sensation 4G from T-Mobile because it's a very similar design. And yeah, the processor isn't as fast or isn't clocked as fast, and the battery life's a little smaller, or the battery life's a little less because of the smaller battery. But something to keep in mind. It's still a very similar device with a little bit of a different color scheme and no beats. But again, it's a pretty decent device. It's got some nice specs to it. But, you know, in the U.S., it's one of those things that, you know, I'm all for importing devices from overseas if it's something that I think would appeal to you or something that I think would appeal to people in the U.S. Honestly, there are so many Android devices coming out right now in the U.S. that are great Android devices in their own right. I wouldn't really recommend spending $600 or $700 for this device when you can get maybe an HTC Resound at the end of the week when it's announced, or perhaps the Galaxy S2 Skyrocket, which was just announced today. You see what I'm saying? There are just enough of them coming out right now where it's not something I would really worry about. So let's see here. We're going to load up Shelby, North Carolina. We'll begin the test here so you can get an idea, a rough idea of what the speed tests look like on this device on T-Mobile. Excuse me. And we'll load that up now. And you know, speeds have been pretty decent. And I'm loading up here. I still have it on kilobits per second, but you get an idea on 3G. I'm getting about 1.4, about 1.3. Looks like it's going down. Kind of peaked at 1.3 megabits per second on the download, and then on the upload, we'll take a look here, about 1 megabit per second, somewhere between 1 and 0.09 or 0.9 megabits per second. So it's loading up right now. Come on now, let's get this done. And it's loading, 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 loading. 923 kilobits per second, and I'm going to switch over to megabits per second so you can take a look at that on your own. 1.06 megabits per second, 0.9 megabits per second on the upload. So definitely respectable given the fact that this is running on 3G. It's not running on HSPA Plus in the Charlotte or in this area right now on this device. So it is still running on HSPA. So keep that in mind. Network communication issues. Let's try one more time and see what we can get. But yeah, I've hovered between, let's say, 1.3 and about 2.5 megabits per second at the peak. Haven't quite seen anything as high as the HSPA Plus 42 devices on T-Mobile, but still I don't know why it's doing that. But I got some network communication issues going on right now. Let's take a look at the camera. Now this is an 8 megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording capabilities, and I've been pretty impressed, although there's no physical camera button on this device. So we'll load up and we'll take a picture of, how about a cup of this coffee, this nondescript, we're going to call it Schmarbucks coffee. And you can see here, we'll load up and take a look. And I'm going to get really close to this text on the, let's see here, on the coffee thing. And we're going to load up and we're going to take that picture. And you know, I have to say, that's pretty impressive picture quality given how close it was. That's not a bad camera at all. Now, if you want something with a fantastic camera, I'd recommend the Amaze 4G on T-Mobile, which HTC says is the best camera on any smartphone, and it really is. It does a great job. But if you're looking for something and you're like, I want a good camera, but it's not my #1 requirement, I think you'd be fine with this. It's a little dark, but you can see even when zoomed in, I can see syrup pretty easily. I can clearly see the box. I can see drink, caution, very hot. Sleeve is made with 60% post-consumer fiber. Super easy to read, no pixelation whatsoever there. Pretty impressive on the camera front as well. And also 1080p HD video recording. Check out PhoneDog.com for a sample of that video recording if you'd like to see it. And I do want to highlight this as well. Let's go into the phone application and take a look, because it's funny, these vary from Android device to Android device. And even though this is running Android 2.3, HTC's UI looks a lot different than Motorola's and Samsung. So you can see here's your call screen, your phone application, and here's something I actually don't like, is how it groups the contacts up here at the top with the dial pad. So let's say I dial 611, for example. I hang up, and it shows 611 here with unknown, and it would show a name if I actually had that person in my contacts. But I don't like how it groups your recent calls, your missed calls, your dial calls, etc. with your actual contacts, because I feel like it gets kind of messy and unorganized here. So here are your contacts. You can get rid of the dial pad if you want to, but on nice island keys with a big call button right in the middle and call history over here on the right, and I can easily scroll over between all my contacts, groups, and then call history. But what I do like is we're going to bring this in. And I'm going to go here so you can see, let's say Rick James, for example. Rick James. And you can see here's Rick James's number. I've got his home phone number. I can send him a text message. I can change the ringtone, block the caller, edit, and do more. And I can go over here to messages and see. What I like about this is I can scroll and kind of separate information and see, hey, when was the last time I text messaged Rick James? When was the last time I emailed Rick James? What are our updates and events? Do we have any photos together or call history? So I can say, well, I called him last Tuesday. I sent him a text message last Thursday, and I can easily hit here and compose, and once I click, it auto-composes a message to Rick James, and I can hit text and say, hey there, how are you, and easily send him a text message and be good to go. So it all appears in kind of an easy-to-see place. It's very organized, so I have to give HTC kudos. They've had a while to do this with several versions of since, but in 3.0 it does a really decent job of organizing your information and keeping it all organized and clean. So when you go in there and you're like, when would I last text message or call this person? It's easy to remember when you did that. So all in all, it's a good device. It's got Wi-Fi hotspot capability, so it's right up there with the Sensation 4G and the Amaze 4G and some of these other devices in the US. Now, would I recommend you import this from overseas? Well, if you're just dying to have a device with Beats audio and you got to have it right now, go ahead and pre-order it, because even at $600 or $700, if that's what you want, then buy it and be happy with it for 2 years. But honestly, I think the Android device launches in the US are great enough to where you don't have to worry about buying something like this from overseas. You've got your Galaxy S2 series, you've got the Galaxy S2 Skyrocket, which was just announced today, the Amaze 4G, the Droid Razr, several devices coming out between now and Christmas. It's a busy season, guys, and I wouldn't, and if it were me, I wouldn't waste the $700 on this device. Not saying it's a bad phone by any means, but I wouldn't waste $700 on it when I could go out and get the Amaze or get something that's equally powerful on one of the carriers for a subsidized price. Otherwise, a very cool device. If it's something you really like but you don't want to import it, take a look at the Sensation 4G from T-Mobile, because there are a lot of similarities in the build quality and in the overall functionality of the device. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com with the HTC Sensation XE on T-Mobile, or on Unlocked, I should say, Unlocked. On Unlocked. Apparently that's a new carrier. In Sensation XE on Unlocked. Be sure to keep it locked on PhoneDog.com and follow us, or like us rather, on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. We're always giving away stuff, so be sure to keep a lookout for our next giveaway. And we're on there, and we have cool content, so like us, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Hey, follow me on Twitter as well. Let me know what you think of this device. If you think it's worth spending the extra money to get it from overseas, or maybe you should go with something in the US. Let me know. PhoneDog_Aaron on Twitter and on Facebook at Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, we'll see you guys next time.